Okay, fuel filter for a 96 Toyota Camry. This has the 4-cylinder engine. Um, I thought it'd be kind of a bear to do this job, so and it wasn't too bad, but I'll show you what I did. First thing you want to do is you want to take out your air box. I think that would make the it gives you a lot of room, and it also allows you to use your tools better. So you want to take off the hose over here. Take off this guy, your hose clamp. He's 10 millimeter. You can see him right there. Take them off, then that loosens this up, and then you can undo your hose clamp here and pull this hose off. Then you can get this cover off. Well, first you have to, there's an electrical plug right here, and then there's a hose right here, and then you can lift this off. You take your air, you take this cover off, then you take your air filter out, and then underneath there's 3 10 millimeter bolts. You remove those, and then you can completely take the whole air cleaner box out. And then next you want to disconnect these 3 things here, these 2 hoses, and then this electrical plug. And then you can just, you don't have to take this guy out. I just swung him up and held him over there. I just rerouted this spark plug wire. It wasn't there before, but if yours is routed like this, then you'll just have to unplug them. Or you just pull up on the little clip here and it'll just pull right off. And then that gives you enough room to get in there and work. So you might be able to see the fuel filter in there. It's right down right there. So that's the top of it. That's a 17 millimeter. So I already did this job, but I took a lot of pictures. So I'm going to go inside and I will show you my pictures and I'll show you what I did. Okay. Okay, here's a close-up of on the air cleaner hose. So here's the air cleaner hose right here, or air filter hose. And then here's those 3 connections. So just unplug that electrical connection and undo those 2. Make sure to mark which one goes where, right? I didn't take off this plastic thing here that those hoses plug into, but there is a something that I did undo. Sorry about that. That I did undo. Let me see if I can take a picture of it. All right, I can't find a picture of that. I'll show it to you when I go back out to the car. So here's a picture with the air box out. This, when you take it out, you'll see this top bolt here, and then these 2 lower ones here. What's maybe not obvious is that this is actually up higher than down here. So what's kind of handy is, here's the fuel pump over here, is you can, there's wrench points on the filter itself, and I should have got it. I used a 3/4 inch wrench, and then I just let it go all the way over to here, and then you can put the wrench here, and then I put like it kind of centered right here, so I put a piece of wood there so that the wrench would hit up against it, and that way when I torqued on this guy, remember, because you need to spin this way to undo it. So the wrench is just going to hit against here, and that way you can use 2 hands when you're undoing this. Make sure it's a 17 millimeter. Make sure to use a 6-point, so because you don't want to round that. And mine was on there pretty good. I had to use a breaker bar to get it off, 17-inch breaker bar. So let's see, is there anything else in that picture? Okay. One more thing on this picture. When you're undoing the bottom bolt on the bottom, yeah, I guess you can call it a bolt, or the flare nut on the bottom of the filter, you need a 14 millimeter flare nut wrench. Be sure you get one. And also remember, you're going to be turning it this way, right? Is that right? No, this way. Sorry. You're going to turn it this way to undo it. So that way the wrench can hit against this guy right here. And so that worked out really well, because then I could do it. I would free up my hands, so I didn't have to try to hold the filter in place. And there is another 19 millimeter. Oh, it's a 19 millimeter or 3/4. They're both really close to each other underneath the filter, but there's no way you can get at it. So just use the top one on the filter itself to do both of them. All right, so here's kind of a close-up of the filter. There's what they call banjo bolt on the top there. And like I say, it's 17 millimeter 6-point. So once you undo that guy, right, you'll see when you go to put it back together, that's one of your copper washers goes right here on the top, and the other one goes underneath that fuel line connection, right? So you should have 2 of them in your kit, or in your fuel filter. So make sure you put one on the top and one on the bottom. Don't put, whoever did the job before me put both of them on the top, and I'm so surprised it didn't leak. And what else is here? Oh, this guy right here. You're going to need to take the whole bracket out, really, to replace this, because there's no way. I don't know if you can see in this picture. Here's the bolt coming through that clamps the fuel filter, And so I mean, there's no way you can get a socket in over here to try to undo that. So you might as well just take the whole thing out. It's not that big of a deal. But to undo this clip right here, you want to put a flat tip screwdriver in this slot here, work it down in there, and then you're going to open it, you want to push it this way. So you're going to go like this, and then that thing will just pop right open, okay? And then you can take the wiring harness out of there, and then it gives you a little more room to get your wrenches in there too and stuff like that. So you might want to do that first. Once you get the air box out, just pop that guy open and take the harness out. Let's see, anything else on here? When you take these off, I use like sandwich bags, and I put it around this guy. And then also, when you take the filter out itself, you're going to leave that there's a fuel line that's going to be pointing straight up at you, and you probably want to cover that guy up too. Also, make sure I put an old towel down there, but you're going to want something down there because there's going to be a lot of fuel that comes out. I also did the fuel pump at the same time because my fuel pump was going bad, so I just went in and replaced the filter too. One way to depressurize the system is I did the fuel pump job first, and then when I undid the electrical, it's really, I'll show you where it is. You just unplug the fuel pump thing and then start the car, and it'll run for like 5 seconds maybe, and that should depressurize the system pretty good. And then you open up the gas cap, and that'll depressurize it some more. I also let it sit overnight. I did that the evening before when I got home from work. I just did all that real quick, and then I worked on it the next morning. So that's just a picture showing how I had the air. This hose it goes to the air filter box. So here's my hood, right? I just it kind of was able to sit straight up there. So I didn't feel like disconnecting. There was one more hose over here. I didn't feel like disconnecting it, so I just lifted it up and put it over there. Here's another picture of the filter, maybe a little clearer picture of the, here's the hold down bolt. And then, so there's a 10 millimeter here, and then there's a 10 millimeter on the other side of the clamp. And then this is 10 millimeter too. So really all you need is a 10 millimeter socket for most of that, pretty much all that, except for this guy right here, right? He's 17 millimeter 6-point. And then you need a 14 millimeter flare wrench. I'll show you what mine looked like. So here's a picture of the old filter once I took it out. I wasn't sure how far you would need to push the filter into the clamp. So here's the top of the filter, right? Because there's that place where the fuel line hose comes in, sorry. And then this one was able to, this clamp here went all the way to the bottom right here. And then, but I don't know if you notice there's like this ridge here, and those ridges go in this part right here. And I bought the Fram filter, and these ridges went pretty long. On the Fram filter, they stopped like right about there. So I just pushed that clamp up a little bit more. I don't think it's a real big deal exactly where you place it here, because there is a lot of play in that bottom line. Well, not a tremendous amount, but there is some play in there. And then, so I don't think it's real critical. So I maybe had the bottom of the clamp to maybe like right there, and then then you tighten it down with the 10mm strap to hold it in. So here's a picture of it looking down from the top. Here's where your electrical harness is in there, and then there's the one bolt, 10 millimeter bolt there, and the other one right on this other side here. So it's just those two holding it in. So just going back to this picture real quick, just to say, when I put the filter back in, obviously it was already in the clamp, ready to go. And then first I screwed in the bottom line, the bottom flare nut, as much as I could. So I put it in there, screwed that guy in, and got it like snug, and then backed it off a little bit. That way it was pretty well seated in there already. And then I put the two 10 millimeter bolts to hold the filter in, and then I went down below. I put my wrench on the top here, had it going down over down there, and then I tightened that 14 millimeter on the bottom as much as I could. I didn't use a torque wrench or anything like that, or I didn't use a breaker bar to get more torque. I just, as much as I could do with that hand wrench, and there was no leak. So, but I wouldn't recommend clamping the filter in first. I would put the bottom fuel line hose to let it sit the way it wants, and like I say, get it snug, and then just maybe back it off just a little bit so that you have some room to rotate the filter to get it, get the clamp against the firewall there again. Okay, there's what I was thinking about. So I didn't want to try to fight to get this cable out of right on this guy right here, so I just took that bolt out, and because it was holding on there pretty good. So that was like the one other thing I removed. Okay, I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and feel free to leave them, and I'll try to answer your questions. All right, I'll show you what I did on the fuel pump. The fuel pump was actually way easier to do than this job was, but I've already done it, so I'm just going to show you the highlights, and then I got a bunch of pictures that I'll show you how to actually do the job. Okay, fuel pump. Fuel pump. So first you got to remove the back seat. It's real easy. It's just held in like these plastic things right here, and then there's this, I don't know if you can see it, this guy right here goes into that hole. So it just give it a good firm pull up, you know, just pull up real hard and it'll just pop right up. So, and then you just take out the seat belts and all that stuff and it comes right out. And then you'll see this cover here. Let's see if I can get it in there. Okay, so you'll see this cover here. There's 3 screws. You can see the screw holes right there. You just take out the 3 Phillips tip screwdrivers, and then there's not much room on this plug. Oh gosh, can you see it? Yeah, there it is. Sorry, I'm trying to do things at the same time. So the clip on the plug is on this side. It's on the passenger side. So it's actually probably easier to go over to the passenger side to get work on that clip, because then you can get in there and just push right on it and it just pulls right out. And then, like I say, once you do that, go start the car and just let it run as long as it will, and that should depressurize the system. And then, of course, open up your gas cap too. So this one's pretty easy. So remember, this is a 96, probably earlier models. A 97, it's a little different on this cover here. So it's just these screws here, and they're 8mm. Or you can use a Phillips. I would use 8mm, that way you don't strip the screw out. And then you got your fuel line connection. So that's, I believe, let me go double check. Let me go check my wrenches. Okay, so it is a 19 on the big nut here, millimeter, and then a 14 on the smaller one. And one really handy way to loosen these is you put them on like this. So the 14 is on the back, but it's sticking, you know, here's the 14 and then here's the 19. And then you can grab onto it like this and get a grip, and then just squeeze down, and you should be able to break those guys open. And then when you go to tighten it back up later on, then you just do the opposite, right? You put this wrench over here like this, and then you put this one over here like this, and then you do the same thing. So now they're, you know, now they're opposite. So now the bigger one's over the left, and then you just do the same squeeze technique, and then you can tighten it down. I don't want to do it because I already got it tightened and it's not leaking either. So so that's how you take care of those guys, real easy. And then you just got this clip right here on this hose line. I put some of that blue shop towel underneath there before I loosened them, because, you know, you're going to get fuel out. Also, the very first thing you want to do before you even start doing that is get yourself a good nylon brush like this and your shop vac upholstery one, and just clean this whole area. Get all that dust up. You know, I got in there and I was scrubbing all around here and getting the dust off there, because you don't want any of that to fall inside of there, right? You don't want to contaminate your fuel. So just take your time. I took like 10 minutes to get it all pretty clean, so none of that would fall in there. Also, your strainer is over this way, and so is your float. So as you're pulling the thing out, you're gonna have to lift it up and then like tilt it to the, you know, tilt it like this to get it out. And there's going to be a lot of gas. I just let it drip as long as you can, because it's going to be dripping gas for a while. And I put newspaper all around here and shop towels and stuff like that, because I didn't want to get the smell of gas in the car, because it's pretty nasty. So it doesn't seem to go away either. And that's pretty much it, right? So it's just those screws there, and then undo the fuel lines, and then the thing comes right out. You know, it might be kind of sticky when you take it out. And my gasket, make sure you get the new gasket for this cover, because mine was pretty deteriorated. I was actually afraid pieces were going to crumble off and fall inside there, but thankfully they didn't. So, all right, that's it on the inside. So I'm going to take you inside the house and show you the pictures, how to do the job. Okay, here's the fuel pump out and on my work area. So here's the float for your gasoline level. Here's the fuel strainer right here. And then, of course, here's your pump right here. What else? So you can see, I don't know if you can see at this picture how badly kind of deteriorated this thing was. It's like all cracked along the edges here and stuff like that. So I was real thankful none of that fell down inside the tank. Okay, on actually replacing the thing, so to take it out, just take this bottom clamp here off. So just, squeeze it in, let it drop to the metal, and then that'll let you push the fuel pump down, and then you can slip it off of from, let me find a better picture. All right, sorry, this picture is kind of fuzzy, but maybe it'll make the point. So there's this rubber piece that's on the end of the filter. So when you push the fuel pump down, then it allows you to slip that out from underneath here. So here's this bracket right here that holds it in, and so so when you push it down, then you can slip it out, and then you can just pull the pump off that that other hose, the metal part of the hose that it's on. So I didn't take any pictures of the electrical plug, but I think this is the right, kind of looks like the same thing. So when you're looking at the electrical plug, you'll see there's like a little pin on the inside of, where it plugs into. So you need to push in there with a flat tip screwdriver, and then you got to somehow work the plug out. It's kind of hard to do one-handed. This would have been one place where having a helper would have been handy, because you could have pushed that in and then someone grabs onto it and pulls it out. But you're able, if you just kind of work it for a little bit, you can get that electrical plug off. Okay, so back to this picture. So once you've pushed the pump down and worked it out from the bracket, the hold down bracket, and then you unplug the electrical, then the pump just comes right out, right? And then what you want to do, the only pieces you're going to use, let me find that picture. So here's the replacement pump that I got. It's the Denso 151001. The electrical plugged right in. I didn't have any issues with it. The only thing you're going to need out of this whole kit, it's got all this different stuff. You just need the hose and then these two clips. And that's all you need. You don't need any of this other stuff. This washer right here is probably for the strainer, but the strainer you buy should come with one. Mine did, at least. So you may or may not need that, but that's what that washer is for. All these other pieces, you don't need it. So you just go back to here and then just take this, just compare this hose to the, just cut the new hose to the same length as this one, or you can make it a little bit longer. You got some play there if you wanted to make it a little bit longer. But you want to make it too long because you want to be able to push that hose down if you ever needed to do the job again. Otherwise, you probably won't be able to get it off or get it back on right either. Is there anything else? Hold on. So putting it back together. Oh wait, let's do that first. So when you put it back together, the first thing you need to do is, well, I guess you don't have to put the strainer on first. Here, so let's go talk about that part. Sorry, I'm winging this as I go along. So you could put this, I would put the fuel line on the pump itself first. If you notice, there was a little bit of a gap there. When I put it back on, what I did is someone said put some like silicone lube there, like spray lube, and the hose only went up so far, and so I ended up like taking the pump and pounded it on hard surface to try to push the hose up, and then it ended up seating itself all the way up at the top, which is not a big deal, but that could be one reason why maybe leave the hose a little bit longer, so that way in case you do the same thing. And then next you have to put the strainer on, so let's go look at that. Also, here's your electrical plug, right? So the electrical plug is back against the bracket there, so just make sure you line it up that way when you put it back in. Actually, that rubber thing on the top kind of forces you to put the pump in a certain way anyways. Okay, so here's the strainer. So I bought this one thinking it was the right one, but I don't know if you notice here's the old pump. See how the strainer comes off and then it makes a little bit of a left angle here? So what that allowed it to do is instead of kind of sticking out at the top here and off to the side, it's pointing more towards the inside. Now, it turned out that wasn't a big deal with mine. I was kind of concerned that it would be, but there was plenty of room. I didn't feel it hitting against anything in the tank when I put it back in, so I'm pretty sure it was okay. Mine is a Japanese model. They kept saying there's differences between these strainers between Japanese and US, and on Rock Auto they were saying that this one is the US one, but I know my car's Japanese because I looked at the VIN, because it begins with JT something, so I'm not quite sure. I'll show you some part numbers later on that I use, and like the part number for this. So you have to get this little washer on here. It's a lock washer, so the teeth are pointing up, right, when you put it on. So you slip it on there, and then you can use a 3/16 socket, something that you want something just a little bit bigger diameter than the pin, but enough to push on the washer, and then you just use that and tap it down, and then that's a lot easier way to get that washer on there, and you'll be done with that in like 10 seconds. And then you put this rubber cap back on. If you don't get one with your new pump, like the Denso that I bought didn't come with it, so I just reused the old one. That wasn't a big deal. It just slips over there, and as you can see, it kind of forces you to have the pump on there a certain way, right? It has to be aligned on there a certain way. So, and then you just here we go. Let's go back. Yeah, so then you just slip the hose on the other end, and then you just kind of push it down enough to where this rubber cap is, you know, seated in there well. Let me see if I have a side view of that picture. It's a little, sorry, it's a little fuzzy and out of focus, but you can kind of see, right? So you see how that rubber cap sticks through the end there and how it's seated on there pretty good. And so that's where you want to get the pump at. So, you know, if you push the pump down a little bit too farther, pull it back up, and then make sure that that guy's seated. And then make sure, of course, both your clips are on there, and don't forget to plug the electrical back in over here, right? So it should slip right in. With the Denso, it just plugged right in. I didn't have any issues at all. And then you're done, man. You're ready to put it back in. It was really that easy. Didn't take me long at all. I mean, it took me a little longer because I was, you know, I went and looked at the strainer thing when I saw they weren't the same. But if I hadn't done that, I would have had this job done in less than an hour probably. So, gosh, is there any other notes on this? Let me pause. All right, so here's that quick picture here, right? So just the two clips, the hose, the pump, you know, that end cap, your strainer, and this, you know, the electrical plug. And that's pretty much it, man. It is actually a very easy job. Okay. So if you are looking at parts, there's a Spectra pump too. This is a Rock Auto. And it does show it comes with this end cap, but this cap doesn't look the same at all. So I don't know if I'd get this pump. And if you do, and you're not going to use this anyway, so I don't know if it doesn't cost as much, but I don't know if I'd bother getting this one. Because then you got to deal with these kind of clamps too. I actually like the little spring-loaded ones better. Alright, so this Delphi pump here, it looks like it does come, this might be the right cap. This one definitely isn't over here. Maybe that's for like the 97 and above, I don't know. So it's a Delphi FE0119, but it's a lot more too. Like 20 bucks more, I don't know if it's worth it. You shouldn't have a problem with the existing one. And of course then it has these screw down clamps again. Okay, on the strainers, oh wait. Actually, I had to get to that page. So I bought this one, the Delphi FS0093, and you can tell when you click on it that it's, you know, it's straight here. So if you look at some of these other ones, like this this one, the Airtex FS180, that one looks just like the OEM one, I think, right? So it's got the angle on the you know, where the pinhole is there, and then the hold down. And then this part looks like it's the exact same length too. But now Spectra has this one here too, the STR027. See, it says for vehicle built in USA. But if you look, it looks just like the one that was, it looks just like the same, right? So it's got that little bit of angle there, right? And then the filter. So I don't know. Oh, there's this one here for 73 cents, this API one here.